Your Special Gift by Max Lucado. Punicello stepped out of his little house, looked at the bright orange sunrise, listened to the birds singing, and smiled. "What a great day, Eli!" he shouted to his maker. Eli looked up and waved. His house sat on the highest hill, but not so high that he couldn't hear and see the wooden people he had made, the Wemmicks. "Consider it a gift, my friend," he replied, and entered his workshop. Punicello noticed a bright red package in his mailbox. "My, what is this? Someone brought me a present." He unwrapped it. "A hammer? I love hammers! But who gave it to me?" He looked up and down his street, but saw no one. Not far away in another small house, Lucia, Punicello's friend, was asking the same question. "Who gave me such a nice gift?" she wondered as she lifted the lid off the box she found outside her front door. "A paintbrush and a palette of paint. I love to paint, but who knew?" Splint and Woody lived down the road from Lucia. They found their gifts at the foot of their beds. "Wow, thanks, Woody!" Splint exclaimed. "I didn't give it to you," Woody replied. "Did you give this to me?" He held up a green box with a yellow ribbon. "No, but let's open our presents." "Sewing stuff." Woody held up a needle and thread. "I love to sew." Splint was just as excited. "A guitar? I know how to play one of these. Who do you suppose brought these gifts to us?" "And why?" Woody added. Splint and Woody weren't the only curious Wemmicks. Hans the baker announced to his wife, "Look, a new spoon!" Violet the florist found a beautiful vase on her doorstep. Even the mayor and his wife discovered gifts. "Look, a bucket and brush!" The mayor beamed. "I love to clean things. Why, when I was a little Wemmick—" "Not me," his wife said. "I don't like to clean anything. That gift must be for you." "And this one must be for you," replied the mayor as he reached further into the box. "A book." "A storybook for little Wemmicks? What fun! Who gave us these gifts?" asked the wife. "I don't know," replied the mayor, looking out his second-floor window to the street below, "but I see some little Wemmicks who could use a story." The mayor and his wife looked down at a very tired Wemmick family. The mother and father were leaning against a wagon. Their 3 children, looking cold and sad, sat in the back. By the time the mayor and his wife reached the street, other Wemmicks were already with the family. Punch, Lucia, Splint, and Woody had brought their gifts to the village, hoping to find the giver. But when they saw the wagon, they dropped their presents in a pile and forgot about them. "What happened?" Lucia asked the family. "Everything has gone wrong," the father explained. "Our wagon wheel broke when we crossed the bridge. When the wheel broke, the wagon tilted and our clothes fell into the river and washed away. The rain soaked our food. We are tired and hungry and dirty." "Where are you going?" "We came from far away to see Eli," the mother answered. "But I don't think we'll make it. So tired, so hungry." Her voice trailed off and her head hung low. For a few moments no one spoke. No one knew what to say. But Punicello had an idea. He turned to his friends and announced, "Hey, we can help this family to see Eli." "Yeah," they agreed, and every Wemmick ran to work on the broken wheel. Splint and Woody tried to yank it off, but it wouldn't budge. "Here, let me get it," demanded Hans the baker, but when he pulled it, the wheel broke into 2 pieces. "Now see what you've done," said the mayor. "Let me take it." But when he lifted the wheel, it fell apart. "This isn't working," Punicello thought, but he didn't know what to do. "We are so cold and hungry," the mother moaned. "I have clothes," Hans yelled, running toward his house. "I know how to cook," shouted the mother's wife, which caused the mayor to look at her. "I did cook," she told him, hurrying away. "Once, a long time ago. Well, maybe I helped someone else cook, but I can try." But she didn't know how to cook. She returned with burned bread and cold soup. And Hans brought clothes, but not clothes the family could even use. They were cut to fit his short and square body. "This isn't working," Punch said to himself again, but he didn't know what to do. Neither did anyone else. The family still shivered and their tummies still growled. What's worse, the Wemmicks began to argue with each other. Your food's not fit to eat, Splint told the mayor's wife. And your wheel is no good for rolling, she replied. When Lucia chuckled, Splint yelled at her. And you haven't helped at all. Well, I don't know what to do. None of us do, said Punicello. That's our problem. He flopped down in the box and plopped his chin in his hands. Something isn't right. Everyone grew quiet. You bet it's not right, agreed Lucia, but what do we do? Pooch lifted his head and smiled. I know. Let's go ask Eli. Everyone liked that idea, so together they walked up the hill to Eli's workshop. Punicello knocked on the big wooden door. Eli opened it, wearing his apron and a warm smile. Hello, friends. He sat down on his bench. How can I help you? They told him about the family of travelers. As they described the broken wheel, Eli nodded. I know. When they told their maker about the lost clothing and ruined food, he nodded again. I know. They're coming to see you, Eli, Lucia added. I know, he smiled. You know? She asked. You knew about the wheel and the food and the clothing? I did. You knew they were coming to see you? He nodded again. Lucia looked at Punch. Punch looked at the others. They all looked at Eli and asked, Then why didn't you help them? I did. The Wemmicks were puzzled. You did? How did you help them? I sent you. Us? You. I led them through the village so you could help them. For a moment no one spoke. Finally Punicello did. That's our problem, Eli. We want to help, but don't know how. The wheel is still broken, and the travelers are still cold, and the food is still bad. Even the mayor's wife nodded. Sounds to me like everyone is doing something, and no one is doing the right thing, Eli explained. What? Splint and Woody asked. Try this, Eli smiled. Each of you do the most what you do best. The villagers pondered his words. Do the most what you do the best, Eli repeated. You have gifts, don't you? For a moment no one spoke. Then Punicello remembered. I do. I have a hammer. And I have a guitar, Splint piped up. Someone gave me needle and thread, Woody added. One by one, the Wemmicks announced their gifts until Lucia realized, Did you give those to us, Eli? The maker nodded and smiled. Use the gifts I gave you. Don't try to use a gift you don't have. Just do the most what you do the best. Feeling much better, they returned to the village and walked straight to the pile of gifts. Punicello took his hammer and looked at the wagon and said, I can repair the wheel with this. Splint took his needle and thread. Time for me to make some clothes. Hans the baker cooked with his spoon. The mayor cleaned the wagon with his brush, and Lucia decorated it with her paint. After the Baker family was fed and Splint finished sewing their new clothes, the mayor's wife read stories to the children, and Woody sang them songs. Not for long, however. The family was so tired that they soon fell fast asleep. All the Wemmicks agreed to meet the next morning to take the travelers to Eli. As the sun rose, a group of happy Wemmicks led the wagon and the travelers up the hill. The birds sang and the Wemmicks smiled. When they reached Eli's house, he was glad to see them. Looks like you've made some progress. We sure did, Eli, Punicello smiled. Thank you for the gifts. Know anyone else who needs some help?